Considers herself a three-time cancer thriver. Please welcome Diane as she joins us to share her story.
Three times. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's the club nobody wants to belong to, but so many of us do. In fact, too many of us. We've already talked about how many of you have been touched by this disease, whether it's you or someone in your family. My first adventure began back in 2009 when I was diagnosed with melanoma, and a month later, breast cancer. 2009 wasn't a great year. My first breast cancer was hormone positive. I was stage 1, and looking back, treatment was relatively easy. I had a lumpectomy, followed by 30 rounds of radiation. With my cheap Irish skin, I burned, I was sore, I was tired, but I never felt sick. I took on the fighter's mentality and realized how incredibly blessed I was because I didn't feel sick. I never looked sick, but when I went to the cancer center for treatment, lots of people looked really sick. I prayed to God thanks every day for the fact that I wasn't sick and I was able to get through it with relative amount of grace, and I didn't feel bad. I'm really honored this year to have been selected to be the mission speaker. I owe it to my hero, Dr. Tiffany Spahn, my oncologist who recommended me. She couldn't be here tonight, and I'm saddened and a little relieved that I'm not giving this talk in front of her. But I know the team from Diablo Valley Oncology is, and I give a shout out to all of you. I will be forever grateful for their love, skill, and compassion. Please join me in thanking them for the amazing work they do. Where are you, DVO? I've been married to my amazing husband for just over 28 years. I don't really think we understood the enormity of the vow we took in sickness and in health. And boy, have I put that to the test. We have 2 beautiful children, Taylor and Patrick, who are also here tonight, the table front and center, with their beautiful significant others, Jason and Gabrielle. At home, I have 2 amazing Labradors, who, as dogs do, were steadfast and by my side during treatment and beyond. I'm very fortunate that I have wonderful family and friends who've supported me along every step of this journey. And I want to give a special shout out to the 12 amazing people that are here celebrating with us tonight. I love you all. Last year, after celebrating 9 years of being cancer-free and 6 months into a brand new job, I noticed a dimpling in my right breast, the same breast I'd had cancer in before. The area felt sicker than normal, but I wasn't real panicky. As you go through cancer, you know there's lots of diagnostics and lots of appointments, and there really isn't rushing anything. I had an appointment with Dr. Saban just 4 weeks later for my 6-month checkup, because that's what you do as a cancer survivor. You go to the oncologist a lot. She felt it, wasn't terribly concerning, but realized that we needed to schedule an ultrasound along with my annual mammogram. So 364 days later, after my last mammogram, I had my mammogram and the ultrasound. After the ultrasound, the doctor came into the room and told me there is a concerning mass in the bottom quadrant of your right breast. And I responded, awesome. He said, no, it's not awesome. I realized at that time that not everybody shares my dark sense of humor and sarcasm. I knew right then and there as I left the office that I had cancer. My husband said on the way home, well, how do you know? I said, well, the looks on their faces and how sorry everybody kept telling me they were, I'm pretty sure it's cancer. Flash forward the next week, I had my biopsy. 4 days later, talked with Dr. Saban and got the news that I had triple negative breast cancer. As you know, Dr. Google isn't always our friend. I'd been doing my research, and I knew regardless of what kind of cancer it was, that really my only options were going to be chemotherapy and a mastectomy. Dr. Saban confirmed this, and confirmed that it was a particularly aggressive type of cancer. Words you don't want to hear when you're given a cancer diagnosis is that it's aggressive. While I'm a crier at all things cute and touching, I tend not to cry about my own health issues. Although I may cry tonight as my voice is already cracked, as I did many times as I was preparing for tonight's talk. I'm typically very much an I've got this kind of girl. When I heard the news, triple negative, I started to cry. And Dr. Saban said, we don't need to go there. You've beat this before, and you're going to do it again. Your journey is going to be tougher this time around, but you can do this. And because of my belief in her, and her belief in me, I sucked it up, and we began to talk about treatment. Chemo started on November 4th, and I had 4 rounds of adriamycin, which is often referred to as the red devil. Comforting, isn't it? I don't know if anybody here has had the pleasure of adriamycin. I was scared. Will it hurt? How's it going to feel? And neither my husband Brad or I talked about the terror we were both experiencing as we went in for the first infusion. At my first session, I sat in a room that they call the sunroom, and there's 4 chairs. And as we walked up, there were 2 elderly men by themselves having chemo. I felt, well, if they can do this alone, I can certainly buck up with the support I have and get through this. When you receive adriamycin, or what they often refer to as AC, the nurse who infuses you with this has to put on a hazmat suit. Go ahead, put that medicine in my body. This is going to be great. I thought I would work through treatment because I've got this. However, I had no idea how debilitating chemotherapy can be. Some people refer to it like the flu, but it's so much worse than the flu. I don't even know how to exactly describe it, and I spent some time trying to think about the words that I could use. There's pain, there's nausea. My husband would say that it robbed me of my personality. I couldn't smile. I didn't think anything was funny. I couldn't participate in conversation. You can't eat. Even water tasted weird. One afternoon when my daughter was lying in bed with me, she said, "Mama, you have to lean into the good." Being a positive person, I was terrified. I had no idea which direction good was. 4 rounds of adriamycin every 2 weeks. It flattened me every time. Not in a predictable way, but each time as debilitating as the last. Not until it was over did I share with anybody that preparing for treatment each time felt like I was walking in front of an oncoming train. You lose your hair about 14 days after adriamycin, and for me this turned out to be Thanksgiving weekend. On Thanksgiving Day, my son Patrick asked me how my hair was doing, and I said, just fine. And I ran my fingers through my hair and came out with a handful. My hairstylist came in early that Sunday morning and shaved my head. It was much less traumatic than I would have thought. It was very attached to my hair. I wasn't looking forward to losing it because it's so much a part of who we are. But in retrospect, that was actually one of the easiest parts of the journey, was losing my hair. I had a wig gifted to me by the American Cancer Society, but I never wore it. I tried it on a number of times. It was hot, it was itchy, and it just didn't feel authentically me. So I opted for scarves, beanies, and sometimes I just braided the bulb. My husband said, "Never realized I had a bulb fetish." I've since gifted my wig to another woman who's going through treatment. Thankfully, the next course of chemo was 12 weeks of Taxol, was not as debilitating. I began to come back. I only had 2 to 3 days each week, that I was flat out on the couch or in bed. But it's scary, the thoughts that go through your mind in the darkest of times. There were moments that I felt this would just be easier. It would all be over with. I never wanted to leave anyone. I just wanted it to be less dark. There was also a part of the chemo process that I call the Uncle Fester portion of chemo. I was puffy from chemo and steroids, bald, no eyelashes, no eyebrows. Ladies, that really sucks. Not anybody's best look. But I learned to draw my eyebrows and I went for a dramatic fake lash, much like tonight. And I'm still getting used to my new look, because before cancer I was blonde with a short bob cut. Going through cancer, you see your oncologist and nurse practitioner nearly every week while going through chemo. And typically it's a day before the next round starts. So at this point, you're kind of coming back. And I was told time and time again that I was handling chemo really well. It became a joke in our house as I felt like walking death. Look, I'm handling this really well. But what scared me was some people don't handle it well. And if I was feeling as bad as I was, what does that feel like in those people that aren't doing so well? One of my funny memories from chemo was a particularly bad day. My son noticed, and he encouraged me to use my cannabis vape pen for some relief. He stood over me, coaching me how to inhale. When I was done, I said, "Did you ever think?" And he laughed and said, "Not in a million years." It's hard to be the mom. You're usually the caretaker of your children, but to have them have to take care of you, I am so fortunate that I have that. On April 4th, I was able to ring the bell as I finished my last IV chemo, and I had a double mastectomy in early May. While my tumor had shrank and changed in consistency, that nasty bugger was still there after 16 rounds, 22 weeks of chemotherapy. I'm now taking a 6-month oral chemo to ensure that any errant cancer cells are going to be obliterated, as I have an aggressive type of cancer, or had, and it has a high chance of recurrence. Next Thursday will hopefully be my final surgery, and to quote Seinfeld, they're not real, but they're going to be spectacular. I'm so fortunate. I've had an amazing community of people supporting me, accompanying me to treatments, hydration infusions, bringing me flowers, gifts, food, lavishing love on me, just being there for me. But others aren't so fortunate. We met a woman at the infusion center in the waiting room one day, and she was carrying a See's candy bag as her purse. And as she shared her story with us, she had to give her daughter up for adoption to her sister because she wasn't sure how she was going to come through chemo. Talk about perspective. A huge part of my support during cancer treatment was going to the cancer support community in Walnut Creek. I attended a breast cancer support group and met an amazing group of women who were all going through essentially different flavors of the same crappy journey. It was a place to share, support, and cry, because you wonder, will you ever be you again? Given the fact that everybody is either going through or has gone through treatment, it was also a very safe space to be with your bald head or your scarf or your beanie, because no one cared. I did a lot of yoga, I did a lot of meditation in the cancer support community, and one of the women in my support group was on the exact same chemo regimen as I. We were one day apart. I've mentioned a number of times that I'm very fortunate, as she had a really bad time. She was not handling chemo well. She couldn't drive to our support meetings due to the severe neuropathy in both her hands and feet. And she utilized the services through the American Cancer Society to give her rides to our group sessions. Again, I'm very fortunate. If I couldn't drive myself, I had a team of people that were willing to go with me or take me. I was never alone. But I think about those people that don't have someone, the single person, the single parent, those who have an employer who doesn't protect their job for them to come back to. As I mentioned, I was 6 months into a new job and I had confirmation from my CEO that I was going to be just fine when I came back, and I took an 8-month leave of absence. I was out longer than I'd worked for my employer. Unfortunately, breast cancer runs in my family. My aunt, my cousin, my mother, all on the same side of the family. And because of this, I've been a fundraiser and a supporter of breast cancer in the American Cancer Society for years before I was ever a patient. I walked because others can't, and I was thankful that those that walk and fundraise, well, all I could do was go from upstairs to downstairs, that they're raising money for research. For 5 months, I didn't leave the house, but 3 times for things that weren't cancer related. I'm fortunate I don't carry any of the genetic mutations, the ones that we can test for now. And I'm so fortunate and thankful that I did not pass on a BRCA gene to either one of my beautiful children. I'm thankful for the money that the American Cancer Society puts into research. And I believe that one of the gentlemen earlier mentioned the most recent Nobel Prize winner. But did you know that the American Cancer Society has funded over 46 Nobel Prize winners? Think about the research. We need these great minds to be able to create cures and treatments. The incredible women that I've mentioned in my talk, who are not as fortunate as I, need the services the American Cancer Society provides. I stand before you tonight still very much a cancer patient, but the good news is I don't feel like a cancer patient anymore. I still see my doctor and my nurse practitioner every 3 weeks. We make sure that we test my blood work so that the chemo that I'm going through right now isn't doing anything weird inside of my body, and I'm thrilled to mention the last 3 labs that I've had drawn. I am right back where I was pre-diagnosis. During treatment, I watched a ton of TV. And one of the quotes that I leaned on came from a show that I watched the entire series of Call the Midwife. And the comment was told to someone who was grieving, but it spoke to me at the time and still does. And the quote is, "You need to keep living until you feel alive again." When I heard it, I questioned not whether I would ever feel alive again, but I do. I am so thankful to be alive and that I've remembered to lean into the good, Taylor. I thank you all for your support of the American Cancer Society, because it's the money that we raise here tonight that helps fund the cure. I had an aggressive type of cancer. There's no targeted treatment for triple-negative breast cancer, so they have to throw the big guns at it. We want research so that we can have cures. Since my diagnosis in October of last year, 9 people, yes, 9 people in my life have been diagnosed with breast cancer. One of my closest and dearest friends, a maid of honor at our wedding, is now fighting stage 4 pancreatic cancer. We need more research, and we need to find better treatment protocols. Thank you all for supporting that effort.